Hello and a very good morning to all News 9 viewers. I'm Neha Bhan. Let's take a look at some of the top stories of this hour. We begin with a gunman killed at least 14 people and wounded more than 20 others at a Prague university on Thursday, the police said, marking the country's worst ever mass shooting. Take a look.
A gunman killed more than a dozen people and seriously injured others at a Prague university on Thursday, police said, in what was the country's worst ever mass shooting. The shooter's body was also found in the area. Czech police responded to the shooting at Charles University's Faculty of Arts building shortly after 3 p.m. local time. The gunman was a student at the faculty, police said. His father was found dead earlier in the day. Bystander Ivo Havranek told Reuters what he saw.
In the beginning, there was a couple of bangs. I didn't even realize it's a shooting. Then suddenly there were students and teachers running out of the building. When I got through the crowd and I realized that there are the policemen, fully equipped with the automatic rifles, covered in Kevlar helms, Kevlar vests. I realized that, okay, this is something going on, this is wrong.
An email sent to staff and students said the shooter was in one of the buildings. Video from the scene showed armed police on the street and people hiding on the ledge of a building. Police sealed off the square and the area adjacent to the building, located in a busy part of town. Gun crime is relatively rare in the Czech Republic.
A terrorist ambush on army vehicles on the way to reinforce a joint operation in Jammu's Poonch district left 4 soldiers dead and 3 injured. The ambush came a month after terrorists killed 2 army captains and 3 soldiers in a similar gunfight in adjoining Rajouri district. The vehicles were navigating a blind curve at a spot known as the Tyar between Dehra Ki Gali area and Bulfez when they came under heavy fire. They were carrying personnel to an active operation to nab terrorists at the DKG area. Now, the latest attack was in fact 6th since October 2021 in the twin border districts of Rajouri and Poonch. In the 6 attacks, 29 army personnel have lost their lives, including 2 captains and 2 JCOs. This is a tragic development that's coming to light. 5 soldiers have lost their lives. 3 others have been injured after terrorists ambushed 2 army vehicles that were passing through Dehra Ki Gali in border Rajouri-Poonch districts of Jammu and Kashmir. There are reports that indicate that the army has been carrying out search operations in and around Dehra Ki Gali since Thursday night. A Defence Ministry spokesperson based in Jammu said an operation was being conducted in general area DKG, Thana Mandi, Rajouri since the night of 20th of December 2023. Moving on now, COVID cases were detected in the NCR region. 3 people have been tested positive in Ghaziabad, while Noida has clocked in its first case. Health officials have collected samples from the close family members and contacts of the index cases in these regions. The person who contracted COVID in Noida has a travel history to Nepal and has been kept under home isolation. The health officials said that the people who have contracted COVID have fever and cough, which can be said to be moderate. Ghaziabad has reported over 1 lakh COVID cases during the first 3 waves of the pandemic. The suburbs there recorded its last COVID case in December of 2022. It has seen more than 475 COVID-related deaths. since 2020. Noida, which recorded its first COVID case in March of 2020, has seen over 1.1 lakh cases. Now it has reported more than 494 deaths. The centre has also asked states and union territories to maintain a constant vigil. The World Health Organization, meanwhile, has classified JN1 as a separate variant of interest given its rapidly increasing spread. But most importantly, it also said that it poses a low global public health risk. The Union Health Ministry has not issued any advisory making RT-PCR testing mandatory for travellers at the airport. The ministry has eased the COVID-19 guidelines for international travellers and dropped earlier requirements for RT-PCR based testing of a random 2% subset of travellers coming to India in the month of July. Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia reviewed the COVID-19 preparedness and stressed on the need to be alert and not to panic amid the spike. A total of 21 JN.1 variant cases detected so far in the country. Earlier this week, the ministry issued an advisory asking the states and union territories to maintain a constant vigil on the situation, besides ensuring adequate testing and sending positive samples for genome sequencing. Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah held a meeting with the COVID-19 Technical Advisory Committee and others at his home office, Krishna, and reviewed the preparation to tackle COVID in the state. Chief Minister Siddaramaiah announced the formation of a subcommittee to coordinate with the experts and implement their suggestions to contain the virus. The health department officials briefed the Chief Minister about the COVID-19 situation in the state, and the Chief Minister directed officials to take necessary precautions to avoid the spread of the virus. In Maharashtra, 11 new cases of COVID have been reported. Meanwhile, this raises the active cases in Maharashtra to 53.27 cases. In fact, have been reported in Mumbai and 10 each in Falghar and Thane. The BMC, meanwhile, has said that it has taken stock of its preparation to tackle the rise in COVID cases, especially the new JN1 virus. It has asked people to avoid crowded places. One case has been reported in Lucknow as well. The officials have maintained that no clustering of cases due to JN1 variant has been observed in India, and all the cases were found to be mild and the patients recovered without any complication. In Maharashtra, 11 new cases have been reported. That's the latest coming in. This raises the active cases in Maharashtra to 53. 27 cases have been reported in Mumbai and 10 each in Falghar and Thane. Olympic medalist Sakshi Malik announced that she quits wrestling. A key figure in the wrestlers' protest against former WFI President Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh has taken this step after the election of Sanjay Singh, who's a close aide of Brij Bhushan Singh, as the new president of Wrestling Federation of India. Sakshi was visibly emotional. She placed her wrestling shoe on the table during the press conference, declaring, if Brij Bhushan Singh's business partner assumes WFI presidency, I quit wrestling. Brij Bhushan Singh responded, distancing himself with, "I don't have anything to do with it." Quote unquote. The wrestling community is left in grief by Sakshi Malik's unexpected departure. Sakshi Malik announced retirement from the sport after Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh's close aide Sanjay Singh won the WFI election. Brij Bhushan Singh has distanced himself with the controversy, saying he doesn't have anything to do with it. But Sakshi Malik there making it clear that if Sanjay Singh is to continue as the WFI chief, she will retire from the sport. She in fact has already announced her retirement from the sport. 2016 Rio Olympics bronze medalist has now announced quitting wrestling after Sanjay Singh was elected as president of Wrestling Federation of India. She said, "Ye ladai dil se ladi." The wrestlers slept on the roads for close to 40 days. She there also thanked the people of the country who came in support during the protests earlier this year. She said, and I quote, "If Brij Bhushan Singh's business partner assumes WFI presidency, I quit wrestling." She's one of the top wrestlers in the country, and it's quite tragic to see her announcing that she has quit wrestling. Now, her announcement came the same day as former WFI chief Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh's close associate was elected as the president of the Wrestling Federation of India.
हम तो 40 दिन सोए रोड पे, लेकिन मैं सभी तमाम देशवासी जो भी हमारे प्रोटेस्ट में आए, दूर दूर से आए, बूढ़ी महिलाएं आई, बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे आए जिनके पास खाने कमाने के लिए नहीं है, फिर भी हमें सपोर्ट करने आए। हम नहीं जीत पाए, पर आप लोगों का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और एक बात और कहना चाहूँगी कि लड़ाई लड़ी, पूरे दिल से लड़ी, लेकिन अगर प्रेसिडेंट ब्रिज भूषण जैसे आदमी जैसा ही रहता है, उसका बिल्कुल सहयोगी है, उसका बिजनेस पार्टनर है, वो अगर इस फेडरेशन में रहेगा तो मैं अपनी कुश्ती को त्यागती हूँ और मैं आज के बाद कभी भी आपको वहां नहीं दिखूंगा। तो बस सभी देशवासियों को धन्यवाद जिन्होंने आज तक इतना मेरा सपोर्ट किया और मुझे इस मुकाम तक पहुंचाया। धन्यवाद।
Switching our focus now, amid extensive damage caused by Tamil Nadu floods, the Indian Air Force and Navy has intensified the rescue operations in the flood-affected areas. Stranded people in various parts of southern Tamil Nadu have been rescued. Indian Navy is continuously providing food and relief materials to flood-affected residents in Madurai and Tuticorin. Meanwhile, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, accompanied by DMK MP K. Kanimoli, visited a relief centre in Toothukudi and distributed relief items. They also assessed the situation there. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also assured that the centre is extending all possible assistance to Tamil Nadu. Widespread damage has been witnessed in Tamil Nadu. The Indian Air Force and the Navy now undertaking relief and rescue operations. There were several stranded people who already have been rescued. Meanwhile, efforts continue to safeguard those who continue to be stranded in several parts of South Tamil Nadu. The Indian Navy personnel also distributed food and relief materials to flood-hit people in Madurai and Tuticorin. The Defence Minister's office in a statement said the IAF helicopters are carrying out rescue and relief operations in the flood-affected areas of Tamil Nadu. The central government is providing all possible assistance to Tamil Nadu. We now slip into a quick break. We'll be right back with lots more on the other side. Stay with us.
The scale of the attack was something that we were surprised at. David Hadley was a double agent. The Americans did not want him to be fully exposed, so all that he probably shared with the Americans was not shared with us in terms of intelligence. If we had that, I'm sure that we would have been able to deal with the situation far better.
This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News 9+. Download now.
Now, a groundbreaking development is on the horizon as the first direct rail service connecting Kashmir with the rest of India is poised to open soon. This initiative marks a historic milestone in enhancing connectivity and accessibility to the picturesque region. The introduction of a direct rail link is expected to facilitate smoother travel and transportation of goods, fostering economic development in Kashmir. The project underscores the government's commitment to bridging regional gaps and promoting inclusive growth through improved infrastructure.
न केवल जम्मू कश्मीर के करोड़ों आवाम का बल्कि पूरे देश का सपना कुछ ही दिनों में स्वीकार होने जा रहा है, क्योंकि जम्मू कश्मीर का डायरेक्ट रेल लिंक जो है वो मुकम्मल हो चुका है और कुछ ही दिनों में वो उसका उद्घाटन की घोषणा हो सकती है। इस समय मौजूद है हम श्रीनगर के नौगाम रेलवे स्टेशन में। यही वो रेल है जो कि कश्मीर को पूरे देश के साथ जोड़ेगा, क्योंकि अभी तक ये रेल जो है बानहाल तक ही कनेक्टेड है और उसके बाद करीबन 111 किलोमीटर का जो रेल लिंक है कटरा से लेकर बानहाल तक वो मुकम्मल होते ही ये ट्रेन जो है कश्मीर घाटी को पूरे देश से जोड़ेगा और साथ ही साथ जम्मू कश्मीर की जो इंटरकनेक्टिविटी है वो भी शुरू हो जाएगी। तो कहीं ना कहीं आज़ादी के बाद का रेलवे इतिहास की अगर बात करें तो नए रेलवे लिंक्स में ये बारामूला श्रीनगर बानहाल का रेल लिंक जो है वो सबसे चुनौती बना रहा है और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण रेल प्रोजेक्ट भारत का है। तो कहीं ना कहीं 118 किलोमीटर का जो ये रेल लिंक है जो बानहाल से बारामूला जाता है वो फंक्शनल है और कुल मिलाकर 272 किलोमीटर ये ट्रेन जो है ट्रैवल करेगी और जम्मू तक जो है कनेक्ट हो जाएगी। तो कुल मिलाकर पूरे देश को जो है कश्मीर से जोड़ेगा। इससे न केवल जम्मू कश्मीर की कनेक्टिविटी देश के साथ बल्कि ट्रेड और टूरिज्म में भी जम्मू कश्मीर और खास तौर पर कश्मीर घाटी को बढ़ावा मिलेगा और भारत के रेलवे इतिहास का सबसे महत्वपूर्ण ये प्रोजेक्ट है। और बीते कई दशकों में जम्मू कश्मीर की आवाम और पूरे देश को इस सपने के स्वीकार होने का इंतज़ार था और इंतज़ार बहुत जल्द ख़त्म होने वाला है, क्योंकि महर टनल जो है सबसे चुनौती भरी 3 किलोमीटर स्ट्रेच की जो टनल है वो बड़ी चुनौती बन चुकी थी और जिसे अब चुनौती पार करते हुए थ्रो कर लिया गया है और लगातार इस रेलवे लिंक को लेकर रेलवे की तरफ से महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाई गई, क्योंकि यही वो रेलवे लिंक है जिसमें देश का और दुनिया का सबसे हाईएस्ट रेलवे ब्रिज बनाया गया है जो चिनाब के पास बनाया गया है, जिसे चिनाब ब्रिज के तौर पर जाना जाता है। तो कहीं ना कहीं कई टनल्स सख्त पहाड़ियों और जंगलों से होते हुए ये रेल लिंक जो है कश्मीर घाटी को देश से जोड़ेगा और आखिरकार यहाँ के लोगों के सपनों को साकार होते हुए कहा जा रहा है कि देश के कई जो दिग्गज नेता है प्रधानमंत्री भी इस रेलवे लिंक को उद्घाटन करने के लिए आ सकते हैं, जिसके लिए कुछ ही दिनों में तैयारियां हो सकती है। कह सकते हैं कि ये रेलवे लिंक मुकम्मल तौर पर थ्रो करने के लिए तैयार किया गया है। कुछ कार्य जो बाकी है वो बहुत जल्द ख़त्म किया जाएगा और कई करोड़ों रुपए के प्रोजेक्ट्स के जो रेलवे लिंक के जम्मू कश्मीर में जो थे उसमें ये सबसे महत्वपूर्ण माना जाता है।
Moving on now, Parliament has approved 3 new bills to update old criminal laws, making punishments tougher for offences like terrorism and lynching. The bills, which were already passed by the Lok Sabha, were also approved in the Rajya Sabha. Home Minister Amit Shah explained that these changes would bring in a new era for the justice system, moving the entire process online. The bills, known as the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and the Bharatiya Shakshaya, now await the President's approval to become law. The bill got passed in Rajya Sabha in the absence of many opposition MPs who were suspended for unruly behaviour. Shah also highlighted key points such as defining terrorism and introducing stronger penalties for mob lynching. The bills also address crimes against women, organised crime, hit-and-run cases and set timelines for legal processes, emphasising prompt justice and protecting the country's sovereignty. Switching our focus to some of the international stories now, Donald Trump, the former United States president, left an enduring mark on the U.S. Supreme Court during his presidency, securing a 6-3 conservative majority. Now, as the court gears up for the 2024 presidential election, it faces pivotal cases tied to Trump's involvement in the lead-up to the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. In this politically charged landscape, the court's decision could echo the spotlight it found itself back in 2000 when it played a decisive role in handing the White House to Republican George W. Bush. The upcoming ruling on Trump's appeal in the Colorado case will likely set the tone for similar efforts nationwide, making it a critical moment for the court and the electoral landscape. Now, despite conservative bent, the Supreme Court rebuffed efforts by Trump and his allies to overturn Biden's 2020 win. Let's now take a look at what's been happening at the Israel-Hamas war front.
The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
It's been 77 days since Hamas's first attack on Israel. Cut to today, more than 20,000 Gazans have lost their lives in the war between Israel and Hamas. Let's get you the latest update from the war zone on your screen. UNSC vote on Gaza resolution remains stalled. It has been delayed once again. The Israeli Defense Forces claim it destroyed network of tunnels in central Gaza city. Over 1 in 4 people in Gaza are starving because of a war. That is what the United Nations has said. Established operational control over Shejaa neighborhood in Gaza city. A big claim. They're coming in from the Israeli Defense Forces. No longer any functional hospital left in northern Gaza. That's a tragic statement there by the World Health Organization. Meanwhile, talking about the death toll, more than 20,000 Palestinians have lost their lives in the Gaza war. The Israeli army on Thursday released footage showing airstrikes hitting what it claimed were Hamas targets in Gaza. The IDF said it also located weapons in a school complex. In a written statement, the IDF said during IDF activity in Jabalia, the soldiers enabled the orderly evacuation of the civilian population from a school complex southwards. The IDF ground troops conducted searches in the school and located numerous weapons, quote-unquote. The statement added the Israeli military fighter jet struck the compound in Khan Yunis and killed Hamas terrorists there. The IDF has claimed that it located weapons in a school compound, and it also says that an Israeli military fighter jet killed Hamas terrorists in Khan Yunis. Rocket sirens in Tel Aviv disrupted a meeting between French Senate President and Israeli opposition leader on Thursday. Footage provided by Israel's Yash Atid, the party showed the French delegation leaving the meeting room with Israeli party officials as rocket sirens sounded in the distance. Sirens wailed and rockets exploded overhead, intercepted by Israeli air defenses in Tel Aviv. The armed wing of Hamas said it had fired the salvo in response to the Israeli killing of civilians. Now, do remember, in fact, Hamas has claimed that it has stepped up rocket attack against Israel. We now slip into a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Since the last 2 years, Khalistani terror groups are threatening Indian diplomats in Canada, US, UK and Australia. Investigations of these threats led us to the first ever abduction and killing of an Indian diplomat, Ravindra Matre, in UK's Birmingham in 1984. Our months-long investigation finally led us to the murderer of Ravindra Matre, who has been hiding in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir for the last 40 years. Watch our exclusive documentary, Murder of an Indian Diplomat, where we reveal the man who killed Ravindra Matre.
Stop searching, start streaming. Download the world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
Bangalore traffic is an example of something that has gone wrong with our system.
We have more than 50 flyovers in Bangalore city. If flyover is a solution to traffic problem, Bangalore should not have traffic problem.
According to TomTom Traffic Index 2022, Bangalore is ranked as the second worst city in the world when it comes to traffic.
The speed limit at the ORR is 80 kilometers per hour, but our vehicle has only moved 10 kilometers per hour.
What Bangalore needs is a surgery, but what we have been offered repeatedly are band-aids.
Only on the world's first news OTT. News 9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
Currently, the industry is facing a lot of challenges as far as demand is concerned. Basically, the US markets has slowed down because of high inflation.
So obviously, diamonds being a dream product, something which doesn't have a utility value or is seen as a luxury. So that obviously goes off your shopping list. That's the first item that will go off your shopping list, especially in recessionary trends.
That lab-grown diamonds are not mined, and they do away with the entire mining. So they save up on all the environmental damage that is associated with mining, and of course, the mining cost, which is why they're even more affordable.
People that is impacted by all these recessions are the artisans, are the people who work in this industry, right? But I think lab-grown diamond has allowed them to actually use their skills in the same product.
This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus. Download now.
Welcome back. A report released by the UN and other agencies highlights the dire humanitarian condition in the Gaza Strip following Israel's bombardment and siege on the territory in response to Hamas's October 7 attack. A quarter of Gaza's population is starving. The figures in the report indicate that the extent of the population's hunger eclipsed even the near famines in Afghanistan and Yemen in recent years. The report warns the risk of famine is increasing each day, blaming the hunger on insufficient aid entering Gaza. Released on Thursday by 23 UN and non-governmental agencies, the report found that the entire population in Gaza is in a food crisis, with 5,76,600 at catastrophic or starvation levels. That's the UN report, where it says that 1 in 4 people are starving in Gaza. Switching our focus away from Israel-Hamas now, supporters of Serbia's opposition rallied in Belgrade for the third consecutive day, alleging fraud in the recent elections won by the ruling Serbian Progressive Party. Opposition leader Miroslav called for the annulment of the December 17 elections and international support. Preliminary results showed the Progressive Party securing 46.72% of votes, prompting accusations of media bias and voting irregularities. An international monitoring mission highlighted these issues, prompting the EU and the US to urge Serbia to address concerns about its electoral process. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un stated that Pyongyang is prepared to initiate a nuclear strike in response to any provocation involving nuclear weapons by an adversary. Take a listen.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un says Pyongyang would not hesitate to launch a nuclear attack if an enemy provokes it with nuclear weapons, state media reported on Thursday. Kim made the remark as he and his daughter met with soldiers working for the military's missile bureau. According to state media, Kim congratulated them on this week's missile launch, which has been widely condemned by the US, South Korea, and Japan. North Korea on Monday fired an intercontinental ballistic missile that, according to Japanese officials, had a range of more than 9,000 miles and could hit anywhere in the U.S. At a meeting of the UN Security Council on Tuesday, Pyongyang was widely criticized.
We have used every word to describe the DPRK's continued threats to international peace and security. Flagrant, unacceptable, reckless, egregious. All of these words still apply. But today, I offer another word: ridiculous.
I must begin by expressing once again our condemnation in the strongest possible terms of the utterly unacceptable provocation by North Korea in violation of multiple Security Council resolutions.
The US and South Korea have increased the intensity of joint military drills, with South Korea's defense ministry releasing footage of soldiers shooting targets. Along with Japan, they have also activated a new system to detect and assess North Korea's missile launches in real time. Washington had until now shared such information separately with South Korea and Japan. North Korea has slammed the new system as part of U.S. efforts to incite confrontation. It says it has a sovereignty right to operate a ballistic missile program for self-defense.
The Democratic Republic of Congo voted on the second day of a tumultuous and in fact at times violent general election. Delays in delivering election kits and malfunctioning equipment disrupted a chaotic and sometimes violent election vote across Africa's second largest country.
Authorities in Democratic Republic of Congo extended opening hours for polling stations on Thursday, on the second day of a chaotic and in part violent general election. Delays in delivering election kits and malfunctioning equipment disrupted the vote across Africa's second largest country on Wednesday. People struggled to find their names on registers, while violence caused chaos in other places. The decision by the Election Commission, known as CENI, to extend the vote was rejected by 5 presidential candidates who have called for a rerun. They said the Commission had no constitutional or legal right to extend the vote and demanded, quote, the reorganization of these failed elections by a differently structured CENI and at a date agreed by all stakeholders in a joint statement late on Wednesday. Speaking to reporters on Wednesday, CENI President Denis Kadima acknowledged that many polling stations had opened late and some not at all. He said around 70% of voters had been able to vote and that the delays would not affect the credibility of the process. Throughout Wednesday, observers warned about delays and failures to open polling stations and other issues, including malfunctioning electronic voting systems. At a school in the capital Kinshasa on Thursday, Reuters reporters saw voting take place in one classroom, while vote counting from Wednesday was underway in another. The tumult of Election Day followed a campaign marred by political violence and repeated warnings from the opposition and observers about a lack of transparency. But for months, the Electoral Commission rejected allegations of mismanagement and fraud and insisted it could deliver a free and fair vote as promised.
Now, amid a wave of attacks in the Red Sea, exporters are urgently seeking alternative routes by air, land and sea to deliver toys, apparel, tea and auto parts to retailers, disrupting freight supply chains globally.
As the crisis in the Red Sea deepens, exporters are wondering how to get their goods to market. Iran-backed Houthi militants in Yemen have stepped up attacks on vessels in the area in recent weeks. That's to show support for Hamas during Israel's military offensive in Gaza. The attacks have disrupted a key trade route linking Europe and North America with Asia via the Suez Canal. It accounts for about 10% of global GDP. Now major shippers including Maersk are sending their vessels around South Africa instead, a safer but much longer route. That has exporters scrambling for alternative air, land or ocean options. One German freight firm said customers were looking at so-called intermodal routes. For example, ship part of the way, then plane for the final leg. But air cargo capacity is limited, and it costs many times more than shipping by sea. Analysts at S&P Global say that leaves major retailers like Walmart and IKEA looking vulnerable to disruption. The crisis doesn't look set to ease anytime soon. On Wednesday, the leader of Yemen's Houthis warned that they would attack any US warships that attempted to intervene.
We will
not stand idly by if the Americans attempted to escalate further and commit foolishness by targeting our country or waging war against it. Any American targeting of our country will be targeted by us. and we will make American warships, interests, and navigation a target for our missiles, drones, and military operations. Washington has promised to establish an international naval task force to protect merchant vessels. But shipping firms say they are in the dark over when or how the force will operate. Meanwhile, they've started hiking fees for cargoes passing through the Red Sea area. United Nations trade expert Jan Hoffman says it all spells trouble for consumers, albeit not immediately.
So if you have systematically higher shipping costs for manufactured goods, the consumer goods that you and I buy in the shop, it takes many months to really translate into higher prices. But it will come.
The extent of the impact will depend on how long the disruption lasts. One US-based shipping firm told Reuters it was advising clients to prepare for at least 90 days of trouble.
The Biden administration announced the release of a Venezuelan ally of President Nicolas Maduro in a deal that secured freedom for 10 Americans imprisoned in Venezuela. Additionally, the arrangement led to the return of Fat Leonard, a defense contractor linked to a significant Pentagon bribery scandal.
In a major prisoner swap with the United States that involved freeing 10 Americans, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro personally welcomed home his ally Alex Saab in Caracas on Wednesday. The Colombian businessman was facing bribery charges in the U.S. before he was granted clemency by President Joe Biden. U.S. prosecutors had accused him of siphoning off some $350 million from Venezuela via the U.S. in a scheme that involved bribing Venezuelan government officials.
Gracias.
Saab has denied the charges and on Wednesday thanked the South American country for never giving up. In exchange, Venezuela agreed to free 6 Americans seen by the U.S. as wrongfully detained, along with 4 other Americans and at least 20 prisoners linked to the opposition. Some of the released Americans landed at a U.S. military base in Texas Wednesday night.
Free at last, free at last.
Earlier, Biden told reporters the U.S. also laid down specific requirements for democratic elections in Venezuela and that Maduro has agreed to all of them.
It's okay because we're freeing American people who were held illegally, and we made a deal with Venezuela that they'll hold free elections. So far, they've maintained their requirements, and that's it.
The deal is the result of months of talks between the two countries, mediated by Qatar. The U.S. unveiled energy sanctions relief in October after Venezuela agreed to hold fair elections in 2024. Although Wednesday's releases could be seen as a step by Maduro to comply with American demands, Saab's return marks a victory for the Venezuelan leader, as his release was previously seen as unlikely. Critics say the swap would further embolden Maduro and weaken Washington's credibility in the fight against corruption. On Wednesday, Maduro said he hoped the two countries would find a way for a process of respect, equal treatment and understanding, adding that today a step has been taken that will hopefully contribute to that path.
Argentina President Javier Milei signed a decree introducing economic reforms, including lifting export restrictions and easing regulations in response to a severe economic crisis.
Argentina's new president is taking sweeping action on the economy. On Wednesday, Javier Milei signed a decree setting out over 300 reforms.
The decree of necessity and urgency that we are presenting today is intended to begin the process of economic regulation that Argentina so badly needs in order to start growing.
He went on to set out the list. It includes an end to limits on exports and moves to loosen regulations. There are also plans to privatise state-owned companies. The changes are already proving divisive, with thousands of Argentines protesting outside the Congress building in Buenos Aires after Milei signed the decree. Earlier protests demanded more help for the poor as austerity measures kick in. Since taking office earlier this month, Milei has vowed to deliver on a promise of shock therapy for the economy. That will include deep spending cuts to help tame triple-digit inflation. His government has also devalued Argentina's peso currency by over 50% in a bid to help exporters.
Yo, Javier Gerardo Milei.
The Libertarian won power on a pledge to end the country's long economic slump and root out corruption. He wants to slash bureaucracy and shrink the state. It's already clear that that process won't come without drama.
Texas have experienced an influx of newcomers in recent days, with migrants arriving by bus, cargo trains, foot and bicycle as they make their way to the border. Migrants crossing through Mexico faced the final obstacles in their path to the United States: the Rio Bravo razor wire and the cold.
We came to this border following other people. We heard comments that here the entrance is easier. We've suffered a lot, honestly. It hasn't been easy at all. It's been very difficult. We've had to walk a lot, suffering from hunger, cold, sleeping in the streets. The truth is that being here in front of the U.S., only a step away, feels like glory to me. I thank God for this because this is what we longed for. Let's hope what's left is less, that the U.S. migration gives us an opportunity to be in that country because we are looking for a better life for our children.
Winter is breaking records in northern Asia, with temperatures in China and South Korea hitting new lows in recent weeks. The prolonged and notably colder temperatures hint at a potential disruption in the usual circular flow of cold air around the Arctic, known as the polar vortex. This natural barrier normally keeps Arctic air from venturing into lower latitudes. Meteorologists attribute North America's occasional bitter cold snaps to the polar vortex's disruptions. This high-speed atmospheric current, typically moving from west to east at altitudes of 50 km, has faced scrutiny for its wavering behavior. In eastern Ukraine's ravaged Lyman residents gather firewood left by volunteers along the road, preparing for a harsh winter. Roughly 90% of the town's infrastructure lies in ruins, even after a year after Ukrainian forces removed Russian troops, leaving many reliant on burning wood for warmth.
In the devastated town of Lyman, eastern Ukraine, Hennady Batsak collects the firewood volunteers gather and leave by the road. The few remaining residents are preparing for a harsh winter. It's more than a year since Ukrainian forces drove out Russian occupying troops. About 90% of Lyman's infrastructure has been destroyed, and burning wood is how most people stay warm.
The electricity is hopeless. There is no gas. The electricity comes and goes. It doesn't depend on people, it depends on the weather.
Lyman is only about 9 miles from the front line. It lies just north of Ukraine's coal and steel heartland, where fighting has been underway for nearly a decade, since proxy forces aided by Moscow rose up. Nearly 20,000 people lived in Lyman before Russia invaded Ukraine last year and occupied the town from May to October. About a quarter of the population remains, mostly older people. Volodymyr Tkachenko left but ended up returning.
Why leave? I have lived here and left for Dnipro. And now I am home within my own walls, and it's easier to breathe and live.
Danger is never far away. In July, a barrage of Russian rockets slammed into the town centre, killing 9 people. The mayor told Reuters Lyman cannot be rebuilt while fighting continues nearby.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the Bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. You have a blessed day ahead. This is me, Neha, signing off.
those who are economically backwards from any community should be given, you can say, that kind of a, you can say, reservation. Not everybody.
This all is bluff, all is nonsense. After 2nd January, I doubt there may be a violence. You are taking Maratha for granted.
The government is confident that they'll be able to give the reservation to the Marathas in Maharashtra.